I think I'm quite an optimist and I try and see the good in everything. And I really do believe every phase of life has great joys. And also, of course, there are some challenges. I do think when you move from one phase of life to another, you have to be open and prepared for change. I'm quite a creature of habit, so sometimes change frightens me. Perhaps some of you will relate. I thought it may be interesting to understand the process of transition when we move from different phases of life, how people react to them, how different people have different methods and ways of coping with change. So here's our episode on transitions. On the show today, we have a powwow with 3 interesting individuals at different points of transitions in their life.
I've lived 4 different lives over the past 10 years itself.
No matter what the transition, nobody's formula is going to fit you.
I have become a much better person in this transition.
Also, a feature story with a new mum, Deepa, helps us understand how her life changed after having baby number 2.
When you're with someone, you guys do things together, you enjoy each other, you go out for dates and things like that. But I think once you have a baby, you suddenly become a family.
And a tete-a-tete with a talented actress and a dear friend, Soha Ali Khan, who talks to us about the highs and lows of her transition from being single to married.
My mother told me, she said, "Why are you marrying an actor? It's going to complicate your life."
We met a few people in different phases of life to talk about their transition and how some transitions that may appear difficult may actually turn into great experiences and learnings. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
Tahira, when you became a mum, how did life change? Was that an easy transition? Was that
It
a
was
difficult?
a slap in the face. I had no idea what was coming. And you know, you're pregnant and you're like, there's going to be a baby and it's going to be so pretty. No, it was really tough. I mean, the baby is just a completely different ballgame. And every parent, I won't say just mother, every parent goes through that
Transition.
Yeah, the baby is so delicate at that time. You don't know what's hit you.
Yeah.
And then there are these 4 million people who want to come and tell you what is the right thing to do. And you just got to tell them, but that doesn't work for me, you know.
Absolutely,
And I'm going to do what works for, well, us, you know, as a parent unit.
Sayuri, when you got married and then when you later separated from your husband, which of the two was a bigger challenge?
Getting separated, definitely. When I got married, I was way younger. I was just 20. So I was in that learning phase. So, okay, that was another challenge in itself. But this was more with a child who has special needs. I knew I was going to be by myself without a maid, without a driver, without any help. So I had to cook, clean, drive him to therapies which were at all the ends of town. So that was definitely a bigger challenge. I have become a much better person in this transition.
Oh, that's a very interesting takeout. And I think you've made a good point that you can grow as a person, I guess, through different transitions. Now you, Sujay, are you ready to transition out of being a bachelor? Or is it a space that you decide you want to hold on to for a lot longer?
I don't mind living the rest of my life alone. And if I find someone who I want to marry, then so be it. Before getting married, I've decided that I need to arm myself with everything required so that in case I do get married and I do have a child, I can provide whatever it needs.
That sounds like
Just
very sensible bachelor. You want to plan for the next transition. But do you think that because you're a bachelor, it'll be quite hard to transition? Do you think you're quite set in your ways, or are you quite adaptable to having someone share your space?
Being a bachelor, my life has transitioned just based on simple things like my dad used to be the bread earner. He still does work, but he's been ill in the recent past, so responsibilities change. And I'd say I've lived 4 different lives over the past 10 years itself. So in terms of adjusting, we all adjust, right? Things are constantly changing.
Absolutely. And that's an interesting point, that what are these phases? Actually, all smoothly moves in and out of each other. But did actually having the baby initially, did it affect your relationship with Arvind?
Well, actually, it was fairly simple because we were actually settled in London at that point. He gets to know that, you know, they're willing to offer him something better here back. And he said, yeah, I'll do it. So he was away for 4 months while the baby was growing up, the first 4 months. It was a trying time, right? Also, you're getting used to the baby's getting used to you. You are not going out as much as you would otherwise. You're not working, you're taking your time to get back on your feet. So it was very frustrating. So I'm actually really happy he wasn't there. If he had been there, he would have been the bane of my existence. Like, it would have been all his fault. But because he wasn't, it wasn't.
So Sayuri, when Vihan was born, how was that transition? Was it all rosy or was it difficult?
It was very difficult. I have to admit, I hated it. Because Vihan was, I don't think he was born with autism, but it is because autism is a developmental disorder, I think he got it between the age 6 months to 9 months. And that is when he started regressing. Whatever went into his mouth, he would puke it out. That is when I learned that even with autism kids, they forget to chew. So that is one process I needed to teach him. He was crying all the time. He stopped responding to his name. He lost eye contact. So I was kind of losing it. I was getting very frustrated with myself, with him, and I couldn't handle it because his diagnosis came only when he was 22 months. Until then, I didn't figure out what was happening. I thought it was a phase. Finally, my parents had to put their foot down. They said, you pick up the child and go, or else we are doing it.
Yeah, no.
So it was a very bad phase.
Gosh, and so then did you actually, because obviously I know you've been amazingly hands-on with getting him the right help so that he's flourishing now and I believe he's doing really well. So are you now, would you say you've transitioned into a phase which is actually very happy now? That
Seeing him blossoming slowly is very fulfilling because autism is not a disease. It is not going to get cured. It's a disorder. It will stay with him. But he's learning to cope. He's getting functional with a lot of things.
That's wonderful. As you mentioned, Sujay, you're probably thinking of maybe having children. And when you do find that woman and when you're ready for that, do you think you're going to be a hands-on dad?
The first part of the question, do I see myself getting married? Why not? I mean, why not? For the second question, will I be a hands-on dad? I'm not sure. Recently, in office, I sit in this table with a lot of girls, and for some reason, baby is one of the topics of conversation. And I was talking about never having washed anyone's bottom before. And so they said, what if you have a baby? And my response was, no. And yeah, I mean, I don't have a baby, right? For me, it's just no, I'm not going to wash anyone's bottom.
We'll talk about this once you do have that baby, and then I'd like your wife or whoever you've had the baby with to be here for you to say that.
And then I started thinking about it, and I wash my dog's bottom. And that's why I figured, like, if I have my actual baby, a real one, which is a human and not a canine, odds are I will be washing its bottom.
Yeah.
I can't picture it now, though.
So that's what's so interesting, I think, about these transitions is that you can't often foresee. And till you actually take that transition or that leap, that's when I think you figure out. So tell me about the positives of the transition.
I'm not very good with babies. I've never been. I've never held an infant in my hand till she came along.
Right.
So by the time she turned 1, then I got used to the idea. She got used to me.
Yeah.
And that's when it became a lot of fun. And, you know, that's when I think I became more calm.
Do you guys have any tips for our viewers out there on these transitions and the highs and lows?
Everybody should have some dimension to life apart from the child or a spouse or something else. I found that in running. I found a release. I found a lot of liberation there.
So Tahira, what are your words of wisdom?
Just that, well, no matter what the transition, nobody's formula is going to fit you. You know, you have to find your own formula and don't let the world cower you down with, but you should have done this way or that way. It's not worth it.
Completely agree. And Sujay?
Nobody knows what's coming, right? No one has any clue about, like, from global warming to the weather to whether we're all going to be here tomorrow, anything can happen. So I just take it as it comes and, well, so far so good.
So thank you all so much. It's been such fun talking to you.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
Coming up, a special meeting with my dear friend Deepa about how her life's changed after having baby number 2.
When you're with someone, you guys do things together, you enjoy each other, you go out for dates and things like that. But I think once you have a baby, you suddenly become a family.
Also, a tete-a-tete with the gorgeous Soha Ali Khan on her transition from being single to married and lots more.
I happen to fall in love with an actor, and it comes with certain advantages and disadvantages.
It's really heartwarming when someone says that a difficult situation has made them a stronger and a better person. I'm quite an optimist, and I really like to see the positive in every situation. And I hope every phase of life is very positive, touch wood. But of course, life has ups and downs. I loved getting married. I was devastated to lose my father. I loved becoming a mom, because I often don't have much time to catch up with friends. So recently, when a dear friend welcomed her second baby, I went to visit them. We got reminiscing and chatting about our single days and our married days, and now the transition to motherhood. And it was really interesting to hear about how she's dealing with all these transitions. So from being single to married, and then married to having your first baby, which was the bigger transition?
When you're with someone and you're just a couple, you know, you're in a relationship, you know, you guys do things together, you enjoy each other, you go out for dates and things like that. But I think once you have a baby, you suddenly become a family, right? It becomes a unit. When you're a family, you're working towards, you know, what's best for your children, you know, making sure that, you know, everything that you do, right, is based on what's best for this unit.
Talking of transitions, when baby 2 came, was it the same kind of struggles as when Bikram was born, or was it very smooth?
This time I felt a little bit easier. You know, at least the first 6-7 months, she needs to be fed, she needs to be clean, and she needs to sleep. That's it. Right? That's all you need. We also know that every mistake doesn't have this life-changing effect that we may have thought with Bikram, right? We realize, okay, if she hits her head a few times, we don't have to call the doctor.
So how have these transitions affected your relationship with your husband?
You know, both of us have had careers, right? And both of us are very invested in our careers. We think of ourselves as equals, right? So what we're doing outside is equal. So even back what's happening at home is equal, right? So in a manner of speaking, he shares the load. You know, when he comes back home and Kamna is like, you know, like waving her legs about and, you know, looking at him, laughing when she sees him, he sees the impact of his engagement with her.
So that's great to hear that he's, you know, very supportive and encouraging. Now, Deepa, I've been waiting to see Kamna.
Okay.
I just heard her cry and she's woken up. Let's go and see.
Let's go. Let's go.
She's gorgeous. So, do you find like every second person wants to give you advice and tell you what to do?
I think the question is, how do you take the advice? I think when you're a new mom, you freak out every time someone tells you you're doing it wrong or you should be doing it this way. I think when, you know, you're, as you said, a veteran mom, you kind of, you know what you kind of take in and what you take out, right? Because I think you know what are the choices you want to make for your baby. You know, I think you've kind of got it sorted out then.
No, that's so true. And also, I think the babies show you the way after a point.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Kamna, how are you enjoying your first few months?
I am enjoying it a lot.
Yeah, is that her? Aww. Deepa, it was so great to see you.
It was wonderful to see you.
As a mummy of 2. I can't believe it sometimes that we're all, you know, mums and
grown up, no?
Yeah, grown up with kids.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deepa.
Thanks.
We're now going to meet a dear friend and talk about her transitions, the highs and lows, and how she's dealt with it all. We have with us today the beautiful actress, former investment banker, Oxford graduate, daughter of legendary Tiger Pataudy and Sharmila Tagore, sister of Saif Ali Khan and Sabah, a wonderful aunt, a doting wife, and a super, super person, Soha Ali Khan.
You got almost all of them right. I don't know about doting wife.
But thank you so much, Soha, for coming on the show. And you are all those things and more.
It's my pleasure.
As you know, we're going to be talking about transitions, amongst other things. And you have already had many transitions from being in the corporate world to switching to films. So let's go back there. How was that transition?
It was never a dream of mine to be an actor. I never took Hindi films very seriously as a profession. And I always thought it was a little bit silly and frivolous. And I always thought that I want to make my father proud and I want to be a banker, I want to live in England and do all of those things. And I worked towards that.
Yes.
But of course, I think if you have some part of your family is affiliated with Bollywood, you'll get approached by a producer or a director. And I was.
Yes.
And I said no for a very long time. And then I thought, why not try one film? And I tried a small Bengali film. And I had so much fun. I said, let's do another. And it's been sort of 11 years now.
You know, I see so many parallels that sometimes it like freaks me out because I also, you know, worked in the corporate world. I was at LSE and then I moved to films. My family was in the creative world. It's quite similar, but I remember finding it really difficult in the beginning because I felt that structure that I'd been so used to was suddenly lacking.
Yes.
Did you take well to creating your own routine or was it something that bothered you in the beginning?
I think I enjoyed the lack of structure because one of the things that frustrated me about working in the corporate field was that you had to, you know, go to work at a particular time, you left at a particular time. The commute, of course, killed me.
Yeah.
And I've never been an early morning person, ever. And then I really enjoyed being in the creative field. I enjoyed the travel that came with it. I enjoyed, of course, it comes with a lot of instability. There's no monthly paycheck, which is unsettling, of course. And I was living by myself in a rented flat in Lokhandwala. My parents were not pleased with this decision at all. And that's difficult for a daughter, especially. I think you want to make your father very proud.
Yes.
And so it was a difficult step to take. And for 3 months, they didn't speak to me.
Really?
And that was also difficult because I've always been the favorite. So for 3 months, I was not the favorite.
I hope you're listening to that. And Sabah, she's the favorite by her own admission.
Well, I know I'm definitely the favorite. I sent my mother flowers last Mother's Day. And I said, from your favorite child. And then in brackets, I put Soha, just in case she was confused. But she wasn't confused.
Talking again of transitions, then you've swiftly moved from being single to married now.
Yes.
So how's that transition been?
Well, it was anything but swift because Kunal and I knew each other for a good 6 years before we got married. In fact, we, of course, moved in together as well, 2 years before we got married. And that, for me, was very important.
How was that for your parents? Was that easy, the transition for them?
We sort of really didn't ask them also. It's not the best advice for everyone. I mean, you must have your parents on your side. But my parents have always been very sensible and liberal about certain things. But my father's always said, under my roof, my rules follow. You have your own house. Now you're of a certain age. And you must live your life by your own rules.
Right.
And so luckily, this was under my own roof.
So family in the same industry and now a spouse in the same industry as well. How's that been?
My mother told me, she said, why are you marrying an actor? It's going to complicate your life. And I have to say that, of course, you marry someone that you fall in love with, number one. I happen to fall in love with an actor. And it comes with certain advantages and disadvantages. The advantages, of course, are they're very sympathetic to the fact that you travel a lot, that you work late nights, and that you have to pretend to fall in love regularly with people on screen. The disadvantages, that they do the same thing, which can be frustrating. And, of course, the romance part, which I'm quite, okay with. But still, it's always strange, I think, to think about. And you know yourself that you don't feel like that when you are romancing someone on screen. You know how clinical it is and how unromantic it is.
Yeah, I think you have to probably look at it like that, that this is just a job.
But also, I feel that we have a sense of comfort and obviously trust. And he is very sensitive about these things.
So it sounds like it's been quite smooth transitioning into married life. And
it has been smooth, but really involves a lot of compromise. And when you've lived alone for a long time. And now that joint family system sometimes still exists, but in a lot of cities like Mumbai, people are really living by themselves. And I think it becomes difficult, especially the later you get married in life, to share space with someone and to understand that people have different patterns and triggers and to sort of, deal with that. And without letting go of what makes you who you are, but compromising on things that you can compromise and picking your battles because you can't fight about everything.
I agree. And also, I think you made a valid point of the fact that when people get married later and they're more set in their way. I have some single friends who honestly now think that it's not about not meeting the right person, but they don't know if they want to change their ways. So I think that starts happening.
One thing that Kunal is most passionate about, and I have become as a result of him, is stray dogs and cats. And he, I think, is certainly more interested in animals than people. A little puppy will melt his heart more than any other person.
Speaking of perhaps the next transition, are you thinking of babies? Are you broody? Are you a maternal type?
I'm definitely not broody. And I've been told that it doesn't necessarily work in that way. It's not that you want to become a mother and then you decide to become a mother. Sometimes you find yourself in a particular position and all of that happens naturally.
Oh my God, I'm assuming I'll be one so graphic on television.
I'm saying I'm assuming I'll be one of those latter people. And, things will happen naturally and then suddenly you will find yourself maternal in a way that I'm certainly not now.
So, Soha, I know you're also very giving. You do a lot of philanthropic stuff. Is there any cause that you're particularly passionate about or that you...
especially living in a country like India, you can be overwhelmed by the number of causes. And also when you know that you're in a position of relative privilege. My mother and I focus on the girl child and primary education. We've done a lot for that. And we have our own Patodi Trust as well. My father, of course, as everyone knows, lost his eye when he was 20. So we helped establish a hospital for the blind as well in Patodi. And we've done some fundraising for that cause as well, for blindness. And the one thing that Kunal is most passionate about, and I have become as a result of him, is stray dogs and cats. And he, I think, is certainly more interested in animals than people. He is not so interested in people at all. In fact, he's not very fond of people at all.
Really?
But he likes really.
I'm going to make sure sometime we get him here
You
and
must,
we'll ask him
of
to
course.
say that on and hear his take on
I hope
that.
he's not watching this. No, he's lovely. He's very sociable. But he's certainly, a little puppy will melt his heart more than any other person.
So Soha, one of the things we're doing on this show is auctioning a piece of furniture for an NGO of your choice.
Oh, lovely.
So some organization that you'd like to raise money for. So is there anything here that you'd like to auction?
I think that's very pretty. There's a colourful stool, which is
Yeah,
which I
that's
think
lovely.
Is quite nice, no?
Can we get that, please?
Oh, this is very nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
And it's
nice
got
and colourful.
Kashmiri embroidery.
So Kunal will like
Yes.
that. So if we could get you to sign,
Oh, lovely.
and then we shall auction it. And where would you like the proceeds to go?
Since it's Kashmiri, let's go with Kunal's choice as well, which is World for All. And of course, they look after stray cats and dogs all over Mumbai. And they do a really good job, so I can vouch for them.
Yes.
So World for All, I think, would be our charity of choice.
Perfect. Lovely. Love. Soha.
Let's keep it informal, Soha. Let's put the whole name.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. And thank you so much. This is going to be auction for World for All.
Yes.
And so all of you out there, please do donate if you can. And it's all going to a wonderful cause. So
It is.
thank you very much, Soha. Lovely having you on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
As always, I say each to their own. Everyone's situation and circumstance is different. How they deal with change and transitions differs. But I do think if we approach each transition with positivity, we stand to gain. And I, who's someone who's usually afraid of change, have decided now to embrace it. Till we meet again, bye-bye. Next week, we meet one of India's biggest fitness icons, John Abraham.
You are actually the funniest co-star I've ever worked with. I would wait on set and suddenly I'd hear someone say, "Hi." And I knew, she still does that?
We also met a nutritionist who shared tips on holistic eating and living.
First, you think about your own mental health, physical health, combine that with good nutrition, then it's a holistic approach.
I've personally been a believer in consistency over quantity when it comes to exercise and most things, and feel that lack of time should never be a reason for one not to work out.